Ticket, please. The voice wasn't rude, exactly, but the tone, the pause, the emphasis, made Zaria feel smaller than the plush first-class seat beneath her. She blinked up at the flight attendant. I already scanned it at the gate. Yes, we need to verify again. The man didn't ask anyone else, just her. Zaria's hand trembled slightly as she opened her phone and pulled up the e-ticket. 16 years old, solo flight, first-class seat, 1A. A trip her mom insisted she take on her own, to prove something. Zaria didn't know what. The attendant barely looked at the screen before walking away. Then came the second voice, harsher, deeper. This seat wasn't meant for someone like you. Captain Collins. He didn't say it loudly. Just enough so only she and the nearest 2 rows could hear. Enough to make sure the shame was private, but intentional. Zaria turned slowly to face him. Excuse me? Collins leaned in, hands behind his back like a school principal about to issue detention. We've had issues lately with people sneaking into premium seats, unaccompanied minors, guest passes, mistakes. I have a paid ticket, Zaria said quietly, but clearly. He looked at her outfit. Simple hoodie, leggings, hair in a neat bun. No pearls, no Chanel. Of course, he said dryly. We'll double-check. Zaria felt heat rise in her face. Her hand squeezed the armrest, knuckles white. She wanted to say something, but all she could do was stare at the window and hope he'd walk away. He did. For now. Back in row 28B, Marissa hadn't moved. She'd seen the whole thing from the moment Zaria boarded. She was watching, tracking every detail. Not because she was a concerned passenger, but because she was Zaria's mother. No one on the crew knew that. By design, Marissa sat alone. Business casual. Glasses. Nothing flashy. She'd bought her ticket in coach on purpose. She needed to see how they treated her daughter when they didn't think anyone important was watching. But now, as she watched Collins walk away, face smug with silent victory, she felt the old burn return. 17 years ago, he had done the same thing to her. Different route, different time, same uniform, same face. She was 7 months pregnant. Rushed. Flustered. He'd pulled her out of line for document irregularities. Made her miss her flight. No apology. No one recorded it. She remembered the tears in the airport bathroom. The way she promised her unborn daughter that no one would ever treat her like that again. And yet here they were. Different day, same sky. But this time, there were cameras. This time, she wasn't just a black woman with no voice. She was Marissa Jordan, civil rights attorney, advisor to congressional ethics boards, and guest legal analyst for national news outlets. And that was her daughter. Marissa reached into her purse, clicked open a small, discreet camera screen. Zaria's image blinked into focus. The lens was embedded in the zipper of her hoodie. Marissa whispered under her breath, voice cold and controlled. Don't touch my child, Collins. Not this time. The plane hadn't even taken off, and already the air felt heavier. Zaria sat motionless in seat 1A. Her hands gripped the armrests like she was bracing for turbulence that hadn't come yet. The first-class cabin was bathed in gold-toned lighting, the scent of leather and lemon wipes lingering in the air. Around her, business travelers checked emails on tablets. A man in seat 1B scrolled through stock prices. No one looked at her directly, but she could feel their eyes. Quiet judgment didn't need words. A teenage black girl sitting alone in first class? In sneakers and a hoodie? It didn't matter that her mom had paid full price. It didn't matter that she had every right to be here. Zaria felt like she was under a microscope. She blinked slowly. Her throat was dry. Across the aisle, a younger flight attendant approached. Blonde, maybe mid-20s, nervous energy. Her name tag read, Lena. Miss, can I offer you anything before takeoff? Water? Juice? Zaria looked up. Lena's smile was real, not the practiced one her co-worker wore earlier. There was kindness behind her eyes, but also hesitation, like she was aware something had gone wrong already, and she didn't know how to fix it. "I'm okay," Zarya whispered. Lena nodded. "Just press the button if you need anything." She walked off, glancing over her shoulder once before disappearing behind the curtain. Zarya let her head fall back against the seat. This was supposed to be empowering. Her mom had said so. Every woman should travel alone at least once, Marissa told her. And when you walk onto that plane, you walk in with your head high. Let them wonder. Let them stare. But now Zarya felt like throwing up. At the back of the plane, Marissa checked her phone again. Still no update from her team. She had a client briefing the moment she landed in Chicago. A federal discrimination case involving a hospital and a black nurse who'd been demoted after speaking out. But her eyes kept flicking up to the small screen clipped to her Kindle cover. The camera feed from Zarya's seat played in silence. So far, nothing worse. But the way Collins leaned in? That wasn't nothing. She recognized it instantly. That was the face of a man who thought uniforms came with ownership. Marissa tapped open her email. Nothing urgent. Then switched to social media. Just for a moment. A DM notification blinked. "Hey, saw what the captain did to the girl in 1A. Unbelievable. You here too?" No name. Just a profile picture. A woman in glasses. She zoomed in. A fellow lawyer. From a conference 2 months ago. Marissa had no idea she was on the same flight. She replied, "That's my daughter. Read receipt." Then a pause. Then, "Say the word. I have a body cam app ready. These people don't deserve quiet." Marissa stared at the message. The loop had just begun. "Excuse me, ma'am," came a voice. Taylor turned. A flight attendant stood beside her, polite but tense. "Captain Collins has requested that you secure your bag more carefully." Taylor blinked. "I already did," she said, voice calm. "It's tucked in, just like before." The attendant hesitated, eyes flicking nervously towards the front. "I understand, I'm sorry. I have to relay the message." Taylor nodded once. Her lips tightened. She bent down, adjusted the strap of her small bag slightly, just enough to look busy. Then sat back up, jaw clenched. She wasn't going to cause trouble. She never had, but that didn't matter. Moments later, footsteps echoed through the cabin. Hard, purposeful. Collins was coming. He appeared beside her seat without warning. His eyes narrowed. "I asked you to comply." "I did," Taylor replied, trying to stay even. "The bag is secure." He ignored her words completely. "Let me be clear. I don't allow disruptions on my aircraft. I'll ask you one last time." "Sir," she interrupted, her voice firmer. "There is no disruption. You're creating one." Gasps, heads turned, the cabin shifted. Collins leaned in closer, face inches from hers. "You're on the verge of being removed from this flight." Taylor felt the heat rise in her chest. This wasn't about safety. This wasn't about rules. This was about control, about humiliation. Then, a voice from a few rows away cut through the tension. "That's enough." Collins turned. So did everyone else. A tall figure stepped into the aisle. Clean-cut. Calm. His voice didn't shout, but it cut deeper than any scream. "Step away from my wife." Silence. The kind that freezes a plane mid-air. Taylor's eyes widened. "Ethan?" The captain's expression flickered. Just a second of confusion. Then something darker. Disbelief. "I didn't realize—" "You didn't care who she was," Ethan said coldly. "You just saw a black woman, and you treated her like a threat." Passengers murmured. Some nodded. One pulled out a phone. Collins stepped back, but barely. "Sir, this is a matter of safety. No, this is a matter of power, and you just abused yours." Now every eye was on Ethan. Taylor stared at him, stunned. But Ethan wasn't done. She didn't deserve that treatment. No passenger does? The captain's mouth opened, but no words came. Ethan took a step closer. His voice dropped lower. You just made a very big mistake. Would you let this slide if it were your wife? Tell us below. Because what happens next changes everything. The silence didn't end when the captain walked away. It deepened, like pressure after a storm, dense, invisible, and suffocating. Zarya sat still, her body rigid, her fingers clenched in her lap. She didn't cry. Not yet. But something had cracked inside her. Around her, people avoided her gaze. Some pretended to read. Others stared just long enough to prove a point, then looked away. The man in 1B coughed softly, folded his newspaper. Didn't say a word. The flight moved on like nothing had happened. Champagne was poured, menus handed out. Lena stopped at their row, her tray shaking ever so slightly. Would you like something to drink? She asked gently. Zarya shook her head. Marissa did too. Lena didn't press. She placed a glass of water quietly on the tray table, then turned away. The curtain swished closed behind her, and with it, the rest of the cabin. Marissa leaned in, whispered, You okay? Zarya's voice was thin. I didn't do anything. I know. He made me feel like I wasn't even real. Marissa closed her eyes. She wanted to hold her daughter, wanted to scream. But the cabin didn't need volume. It needed memory. It needed someone to remember exactly how this felt. Zarya stared out the window. The runway was still visible below. Do they think I'm dangerous? She asked. Marissa didn't answer, because deep down, she knew the truth. Not dangerous, just inconvenient. Near the back, Lena paused beside the service galley. She took a breath, closed her eyes, and reached for her phone. There were messages already. What happened up there? Did he really say that? Girl, is this going viral or not? She didn't reply. Instead, she scrolled through the crew group chat. Not a word from the other attendants. Just a silent flood of system updates. She looked toward the cockpit. Collins hadn't come out again. The first officer sat alone in silence. Even he looked uncomfortable. In row 4, the woman with glasses, the one who had messaged Marissa earlier, typed quietly into her Notes app, then opened a camera app. Not the front-facing one. She angled it discreetly between the pages of a book. The red light blinked. Zarya's fingers finally moved. She pulled her hoodie up, hid her face in the cotton shadow. She felt like a passenger on someone else's body. The girl who boarded the plane no longer existed. She'd come on feeling nervous but proud, a little scared but also curious. Now she felt erased. You shouldn't have had to do that, she whispered. Marissa blinked. What? Step in. Prove I belonged. You said this flight was mine. It still is. Zarya shook her head. Not anymore. She pulled out her phone, unlocked it, stared at the empty screen. Then she did something Marissa didn't expect. She opened TikTok. She pressed record. Her voice was small, but clear. If you're watching this, I'm 16. I'm sitting in first class, and a man in uniform just told me I didn't belong. She stopped, deleted it, started again. No. I'm 16. I'm sitting in first class, and a man with power tried to take that from me. She looked at her reflection in the screen, eyes damp, lips trembling. Then she hit post. Marissa turned sharply. Zarya, but the video was already gone. Uploaded. Set free. 17 years earlier, the gate agent had smiled as he handed her the boarding pass. Gate 14, Ms. Jordan. Have a safe flight. Marissa was 7 months pregnant. Swollen ankles, a law school binder under one arm, a bag of prenatal vitamins under the other. She had been late, but polite. Tired, but focused. She never made it to gate 14, because before she could take 3 steps, another voice stopped her. Ma'am, I'm going to need you to step aside. The uniform had looked different then. A different shade. But the voice? The voice was exactly the same. She remembered the hallway where they questioned her. The cold bench, the clipboard shoved into her hands. Your name doesn't match the security clearance. You're not listed on the manifest. Are you traveling alone? She had tried to explain, shown them her ID, her boarding pass, even her ultrasound photo. Nothing mattered. She missed the flight. No apology, no compensation, just a thin smile and a shrug. The man who had stopped her, Collins, hadn't even looked back when he left the room. That night, she cried in the airport bathroom until the janitor knocked twice, and she made a promise. Someday her child would fly without fear. Now, sitting beside that very child, Marissa watched her own reflection in the plastic window, aged 17 years, and sharpened. The pain hadn't faded. It had focused. Back in the rear galley, Lena leaned her elbows on the silver counter, staring at her trembling hands. She had spoken up. She had told the truth, but no one said anything afterward. No good job, no nod of solidarity. Just silence. Her supervisor hadn't even looked her in the eye. And Collins? He hadn't reappeared since. Lena turned her head sharply when she heard a voice whisper. Got it on video? It was the passenger from row 4. Glasses, poised, unreadable. The woman didn't wait for an answer. I did, the moment he stepped into her space. From the second he said, guest pass. Lena blinked. You're with... Let's just say I've been waiting for this man to hang himself for years. The woman tucked the phone deeper into her sleeve. You've got courage, she said softly. Lena looked down. I'm not sure that's what it is. It is. Then the woman disappeared back into the shadows. Zaria hadn't spoken for almost 10 minutes. She just stared at the seat back in front of her. The video she'd posted had already gotten 2,000 views. 3 minutes later, 12,000. Then someone commented, Was that Aura Airlines Flight 369? I think I know that captain. He did this to my niece last year. More followed. Zaria's hands began to shake, not from fear, but from something else. Marissa saw the screen. You're going viral, she whispered. Zaria didn't answer. She just whispered back, Good. The video hit 100,000 views before they even reached cruising altitude. Marissa didn't need to ask how she knew. She could feel it. The cabin wasn't just filled with recycled air anymore. It was charged. She opened her messages. Benjamin Carter was already waiting at the top. Saw it. Full download coming in now. You want me to hold back? She smiled slightly. No, not this time. She typed back. Initiate, full tier, use Protocol Aurora. A second later, 3 dots blinked. Roger that. Tracking Collins' record now. Already found 2 prior complaints, 2016, 2021. Not surprised, she replied. Marissa turned her phone face down and looked at Zaria. The girl was still silent, still wrapped in the hoodie like armor. But the fire had returned to her eyes. She's not hiding anymore, Marissa thought. Neither should I. Lena stood near the rear exit door, pretending to check the emergency light. Her hands were slick with sweat. She had just stepped into something bigger than turbulence. And yet, for the first time in her brief airline career, she wasn't scared of getting written up. She was scared of staying silent. The woman in row 4 passed her again. They didn't speak, but their eyes locked. And that was enough. Back up front, Zaria opened her phone. The comments flooded in. This broke my heart. My daughter's 15. I'm crying watching this. Aura Airlines better fire that pilot. Then came the first stitch. Another user added, Here's what you don't see in the video. The captain didn't just humiliate a girl. He picked the wrong damn mother. It ended on a freeze frame of Marissa stepping forward. Already it had 200K likes. Marissa checked her legal folder. The PDF was already loaded. A 4-page summary. FAA Pilot Conduct Clause, Passenger Discrimination Regulations, and a list of federal media contacts ready to receive it. She copied the folder, sent it to Carter. Then, with one deep breath, copied in the airline's executive relations inbox. She added no message, just the subject line. Flight 369, Incident Report, Urgent. Then she attached a single .move file, Zaria's clip, the full version, unedited. Send. She turned to Zaria. Your video just reached 1 million. Zaria didn't look up. They'll try to twist it. Marissa nodded. Then we give them the whole picture. She leaned closer. This isn't about making noise. It's about making them change. Zaria's fingers curled tighter around her phone. What if they ignore us? Marissa's voice sharpened. They won't. Not this time. Because this time, you didn't stand alone. Collins hadn't been seen since the confrontation. The cockpit door remained closed. But tension didn't fade. It shifted. It spread. Across the aisle in 1C, an older black man sat upright, arms folded, watching Zaria closely. His posture had changed. He no longer looked like just a businessman with a tablet and tie. He looked alert. He'd seen everything, and now he was waiting. At the drink cart, Lena tried to pour sparkling water without spilling. She failed. The can slipped in her hand, water fizzing over the cup and onto the tray. Her partner didn't react, just gave her a look. Lena took a breath, set the tray down, and walked straight to the cabin intercom panel. She didn't press the mic, but she stood there, right next to the button, for a full 10 seconds, like she was thinking about it. Then she turned and walked back to the front. The hum of the engines was suddenly drowned out by a single, clear voice. Excuse me. It came from 3D. A woman, 50s, white hair in a bun, stood up. She held a phone in her hand, screen glowing. I just want to say, I saw what happened earlier, and it wasn't okay. Passengers turned. She didn't sit. I've flown Aura for 11 years. I've never once seen a teenage boy questioned for sitting in first class. Never. Not once. A few murmurs rose. I don't know who that captain thinks he is, but I know what he looked like when he did it. A pause. And then, softly, the older black man in 1C said, You're not wrong. He stood up. My nephew was kicked off a flight in 2021 for asking if he could change seats with his grandmother. Collins was the captain. Silence, then a third voice. Row 2F, a woman in glasses, calm, deliberate. I recorded the entire interaction. It's already backed up. If they try to deny it, good luck. Lena stood frozen near the galley. Her hand trembled on the cart handle. Marissa placed her hand on Zaria's. Don't look away, she whispered. Look at them! Zaria slowly raised her eyes and saw it. People standing, speaking, choosing sides. One row at a time, the silence was unraveling. Someone clapped, soft, hesitant. Another followed. And then the applause grew louder. It wasn't cheering, it was something else. A verdict. Collins had not just lost the argument. He had lost the cabin. The landing announcement came 20 minutes later. But no one was reading the usual safety cards. They were reading comments, sharing clips, waiting. The buzz on the plane was no longer about upgrades or meal choices. It was about Flight 369. It was about her. As the wheels touched the runway, a hush fell over the cabin. Not fear, anticipation. Zaria glanced at the window. A row of media vans lined the terminal. Cameras, lights, waiting. Someone had tipped them off. Marissa had a good guess who. The plane rolled to a stop. Then a voice, familiar, brittle, cut through the speakers. Captain Collins and First Officer Green, please remain on the flight deck until met by airport operations. Dead silence. A beat passed. Then Lena's voice, calm, trembling slightly, came over the cabin. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Chicago O'Hare. Please remain seated while we allow ground staff to assist with a special disembarkation. Special. Everyone knew what that meant. As passengers stood to retrieve their bags, the attention wasn't on overhead bins. It was on 1A. Zaria didn't stand immediately. She looked at her mother. Marissa nodded. Zaria rose. Not with a smile, not with a scowl. Just steady. Quiet dignity. She walked down the aisle. Phones were out, not to mock, to witness. Every step was a statement. At the aircraft door, a woman in a dark blazer with an airport badge stood waiting. Behind her, 2 airline executives, red eyes, tense jaws. Collins was nowhere to be seen. "Ms. Jordan," one said, "on behalf of Aura Airlines, Marissa raised a hand. "Send it through our counsel." The woman nodded, deflated. Outside, a reporter called her name. Then another. Cameras clicked. A sea of flashes. Marissa didn't stop. Neither did Zaria. They walked past the reporters, past the officials, past the questions. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing. That night, Zaria sat by the hotel window, wrapped in a blanket. Her video had crossed 20 million views, but she didn't care about the number. She watched the headlines scroll across the TV. Teen racially profiled in first class. Airline scrambles to respond. Captain suspended after viral incident. Mother of passenger is civil rights attorney. Demands transparency. Marissa walked over, placed a cup of tea beside her. "Still feel like your seat didn't matter?" she asked gently. Zaria didn't look away from the window. "I don't think it was ever about the seat," she said. Marissa smiled. "No," she whispered. "It was about making them see you." Zaria set the cup down. Outside, the city shimmered like a sea of quiet witnesses, each light a reminder that someone, somewhere, still felt unseen. But for once she didn't. She felt clear, visible, exactly where she was meant to be. This story had found its landing. But under the headlines, beyond the flashes, inside crew chats, gate terminals, and unrecorded aisles, there are still hundreds of other Zarias waiting to be seen. This story may have ended, but justice, real justice, can't stop at a single seat. If you believe justice shouldn't require a camera to exist, share this story. For every voice that's been silenced, every truth ignored, every girl made to feel invisible, let them know we see them now. Subscribe for more stories where silence breaks and justice finally answers.